Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the book, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So far as devotional service is concerned, it is divided into processes, into two processes. In the beginning, it is called Bhiri Bhakti or devotional service with regulated principles. And in the highest stage, it is called Raga Bhakti or devotional service in pure love. The supreme percent of Godhead is the absolute truth, but is manifested by expansions of different energies also. Those who are following the principles of devotional service in the relative forms ultimately achieve the Vaikunthas in the spiritual world, whereas one who is following the principles of love evolution in devotional service reaches the supreme abode Krishna Loka or Goloka. The transcendentalist can also be divided into three, namely the Akama, one who does not have any material desires, Mokshakama, or persons who seek liberation from their material miseries, and Sarvakama, or persons who have material desires to enjoy. The most intelligent transcendentalist gives up all other processes and engages himself in devout service of the Lord. Even though he may have many desires, not by any kind of transcendental activities, either in spiritual action or the cultivation of knowledge, nor by the mystic yogic cultivation, can be a person achieve a highest perfection without adding a tinge of devotional service to them. Except for devotional service, all other forms of transcendental process are just like nipples on the neck of a goat. There are some nipples hanging on the neck of a goat, but they do not supply milk. If one is to derive, therefore, the actual perfection of his process must take to the devotional service of Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated in the 7th chapter, 16th verse, there are four kinds of beginners in devotional service, whose backgrounds are very righteous. They are distressed, the inquisitive, the seeker of material profit, and Gnani, or the wise man. These four kinds of people who, when they are quoted by previous righteous activities, come to devotional service of the Lord. Out of the four, those who are distressed and those who are in the need of material possessions are called devotees with desires, whereas the other two, the inquisitive and the wise, are under the heading of seeking liberation. But because they worship Krishna, they consider to be fortunate. In due course of time, if they give up all their desires and become pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, they are called the most fortunate. Such fortunate beginners can develop only in the association of pure devotees of Lord Krishna. When one is associated with such pure devotees, one becomes a pure devotee himself. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto, 10th chapter, as follows. A person who is actually intelligent is able, by association with pure devotees, to hear about Lord Krishna and his activities. These activities are very attractive and he does not give up such association with the Lord. Except for the association of pure devotees, any association is called Kaitanya or cheating. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, which it is stated that any cheating process which obstructs transcendental realization is to be thrown off. When Srimad Bhagavatam, one can understand reality as it is, and it becomes auspicious in helping one to transcend the three kinds of material miseries. The greatest sage Vasudeva, as a work of his mature experience, compiles Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, by understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, one can immediately capture Supreme Lord within his heart by devotional service. Lord Chaitanya then explained that the word Projahita means desire for liberation. It is explained by one great commentator as the most obstructive stumbling block for realization of the Supreme Lord. But somehow or other, if somebody comes to Krishna and begins to hear about him, Krishna also so kind that he awards him his lotus feet as a center for devotee. Such devotee or transcendentalist forget everything and engages himself in the devotion service of the Lord. For anyone who comes to the Lord in devotion service or in full Krishna consciousness, the reward is the supreme. Once engaged for supreme, he will no longer ask for anything as does the distressed man and he who desires material possessions. The method of devotional service, the service itself, association with few devotees in the causeless mercy of the Lord. These three things can act so wonderfully that whether the devotee is distressed soul or in want of middle position or inquisitive, or even if he is a wise man cultivating knowledge, he can give up all activities and his mind becomes absorbed in Krishna. The summary is that henceforward, whatever meaning would apply for all the words in the Atmarama verse will be meant only for Krishna. So far, Lord Chaitanya has spoken of the introduction of the Atmarama verse. I will explain in its real position. In the cultivation of knowledge, there are two kinds of transcendentalists. One of them is the worshipper of the impersonal Brahman, and other is the desire of liberation. One is worship the impersonal future of Brahman, and therefore they are called worshippers of Brahman. The worshippers of Brahman are divided into three further stages. The neophyte practitioner, the one who is absorbed in the Brahman realization, and the one who actually realizes himself as Brahman. If devout service is added, the knower of the Brahman can some become liberated, otherwise there is no possibility. Anyone who is fully engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness is understood to be already a soul realized in Brahman. Devotional service is so strong that one is attracted to the Krishna even from the process of Brahman worship. The Lord awards such devotee the perfection of spiritual body and is eternally engaged in the transcendental quality of Krishna. When he understands and becomes attracted by the transcendental qualities, he wholeheartedly becomes engaged in devotional service. For example, the four Kumaras, the Sukadeva Goswami were liberated souls from the beginning, and still later in their life they become attracted to the pastimes of Krishna, and they become devotees. Devotees like the four Kumaras, one of whom, Sanaka Kumara, was attracted by the flavor of the flowers offered to Krishna, were all attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and thus became engaged in his devotional service. The mystics mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam are understood to have been transcendentalists from birth by hearing the transcendental qualities of Krishna from the Brahma and Lord Shiva and Narada. Sometimes one becomes attracted to Krishna and his transcendental qualities simply by looking upon the beautiful features of his transcendental body. And in that case also one gives up the desire for liberation and becomes engaged in devotional service of the Lord. The devotee repents his loss of time and in the so-called cultivation of knowledge and becomes a pure devotee of the Lord. There are two kinds of liberated souls even in this material body. The soul liberated by devotional service and soul liberated by the cultivation of knowledge. The difference is that the liberated soul in devotional service becomes more and more elevated, being attracted by transcendental qualities of Krishna. Whereas the dry spectators who simply cultivate knowledge without any connection with devotional service becomes fallen on the account of their many offenses. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 10 Canto 2nd chapter. It is said that, O my Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated without the touch of devout service is not pure. Because even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by seven penances and austerity, still with no center at your lotus feet, they are sure to fall down again in this material existence. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this in the 18th chapter, 54th verse. One who is actually situated in the Brahman realization has nothing to lament for and nothing to desire. He is equipoised towards everyone and thus is eligible for being situated in the devotional service. The same thing is accepted by Vilvamongala Thakur in his later life. He lamented that I was situated as a monist to become one with the Supreme Lord. But somehow or other, I contacted a naughty boy and he became an eternal servitor. In other words, those who become self-realized souls by executing devout service can achieve a transcendental body and being attracted to transcendental qualities of Krishna, they become fully engaged in pure devotion service. Anyone who is not attached to Krishna is understood to be still under his spell of Maya. Therefore, one who is trying to be liberated by devotional service is actually liberated from the spell of Maya. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many instances of devotees who become liberated in this life simply by their engagement in the devotional service. Let me stop here, Prabhu.